Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We were on the topic sublimation of desire. Why do we talk of sublimation of desire? Because remember the flow of thought so far, that the only way to be happy is to not have a desire. That's the only way, there's no other way. So, how do you remove desires? You can remove desires either through fulfillment or through sublimation. Only these two ways are possible. So we did what happens when you do fulfillment, and we were on doing what happens when you sublimate. When you sublimate means what do? You get a higher desire, and as a consequence of that higher desire, the lower desire wanes away. Like the common example is you become a teenager, you get teenage desires. Your desires for the dollies and pollies of your erstwhile childhood are no longer there. It's about that simple. Now, when you say higher desire, we did that last time. When you say higher desire, higher is a comparative term. So you're comparing to something. You're comparing to something. What are you comparing? To what your current desire is. So what is higher for X may not be higher for Y. And that is why it is very, very important for us to understand the relativity of this whole. If we don't get the relative, how it all works on a very relative thing, we will always be thinking in our minds, that is a bad man, this is a good man. This is all nonsense because this whole thing is relative. And therefore, what they do will be relative. Therefore, the effects of what they do will be relative. A person who uh, a person who's going from standard 1 to standard 2 and he's diligent about it, will get rewards for things that somebody going from 7th standard to 8th standard won't get. Right? So a child draws first standard, he draws some bat and ball he draws. I don't know what they draw. Bat and ball he draws. And everybody says, "Acha, wah, wah, kya draw kiya hai?" Now the same fellow, if he goes to 8th standard and he draws that, will you do wah, wah? So spiritual growth, you get wah, wah for doing what is good for your level. The same thing done by another person may not get it at all. If you are tamasic and you are doing worse than yours, you will get fired. Sometimes for doing better than other people. So you can't go to the teacher and say, look, if you praise that person and now you're not praising me, you're a very bad teacher. No, this is how it goes. You have to determine how this is working. And you can't, and therefore you also understand very easily in life how people who are not so grown on the spiritual path sometimes do better than people who are grown on the spiritual path. And they get much better rewards of it. Because for their level, they're doing it right. Once you figure out all these things, life becomes very simple. You don't have more problems in life. Right? So then we came to Morris Maeterlinck's most beautiful statement, which is all wickedness. It's the happy and blessed are when wickedness stands forth revealed as goodness bereft of a guide. So if I have to go to the higher, I will need education. If I didn't go to the higher, it's wrong because I did not receive that education. And I would have been just as good or just as bad as somebody else had the education levels been the same. So who am I to criticize and who am I to praise? Hence, Morris Matalin refers to wickedness as goodness bereft of a guide. Education is the only difference between higher and lower desire. We need education on the difference between gross and subtle desires. Right? So let's continue. All okay so far? Gross and subtle happen. Subtler desires generate subtler pleasures. Since happiness is a comparative state, the type of desire determines the type of happiness. The subtler one's values are, the more peace, calmness, or pleasure one experiences. So, what is a consequence of a subtler desire is subtler pleasures. Teenage pleasures compared to childhood pleasures, subtler. Adult pleasures compared to teenage pleasures, subtler. So why do you take them up? Because the pleasure content is better. The terms gross and subtle pleasure refer to a gradation. It is relative. The higher form is the subtle happiness, the lower is gross. So this just follows from what we have just studied. So the higher is subtle and the lower is gross. Whether a particular rung is higher or lower depends on the reference rung. Where are you looking at it? Whether a particular form of happiness is gross or subtle depends on the point of reference. Mills and Boon's novels are gross compared to Shakespeare's, but subtle compared to children's stories. So the same thing from one perspective becomes higher and from another perspective becomes lower. Same thing. The different aspects of the personality give rise to different types of happiness. As values evolve, one escalates from physical to emotional to intellectual to spiritual desire. So, where is this coming from, the different types of happiness? From which part of your personality are you relating to? Body, mind, intellect, subtle intellect, what are you relating to will determine the kind of pleasure. Every growth, every step forward accords commensurate pleasure. Now, this is an important line because most people think it's 0 and 100. That, okay, today we are miserable, one day we will realize the self and we become very happy. It's not like that at all. It's far away from that. Every step you take forward, you get commensurate happiness. That's proportional to what you've done. As goes the saying, simple living and high thinking. The lower simplifies as we move to the higher. When your focus is on something, other things you just sort of take very casually. Because of the effort involved, higher aspects are generally disregarded. There is an effort for everybody to move up higher than where they are. So you see a person who's a criminal, he will not become a normal citizen because that takes a lot of work. But the normal citizen will not become a great citizen because that takes a lot of work. And the greater citizen will not become an even greater citizen because that is also work. So for everybody, wherever we are, the effort is the same. And that's why people don't rise up the pyramid. every step the effort is the same. For the person going from first standard to second standard, he has to put in effort. Going from 9 standard to 10 standard, again, he has to put in effort. It's not like you say, okay, now I have reached MA. Now I don't have to put in effort. No, for the next step, again, you'll have to put. So that effort is common throughout the journey. That effort is the intellect. And therefore, this statement of Vedanta, that in every action, the intellect has to be applied. This is true whether you're at the bottom or whether you're at the top. That is never going to change. And that's why it's such beautiful literature, because they found those things which are common for the entire journey. So wherever you are on the journey, this will still work. And therefore, you can have a class such as this, people can be in different places, and still it will make sense to everybody because each one will interpret it their way. And, like 20 years later, you read these books, it still makes sense because, again, you'll interpret it in your way again. So no matter where somebody is, until he's realized, these books will just continue to make sense because you just see them differently after a while. Okay, Mahesh. Comparison between gross and subtle pleasures. Grosser pleasures are easy. Their joy content is derived instantaneously. Why is their joy content derived instantaneously?
Least amount of effort to be put.
Because it's what your mind wants. It did what you did what your mind wants. You're happy. Instant. So everybody, for anybody, the lower is always instant. So if you're enjoying anything instantly, please note that this has now become lower for you. Their appreciation need not be taught. Nobody used to teach you this anymore. Oh, yes, Prashant?
Ma'am, but we said that like from first standard to second standard, the effort, and between eighth standard to ninth standard, effort is same. But here we are saying that the happiness is easily derived. That means effort is less.
Correct.
But those statements.
Effort is not less. The first standard guy studying what comes pre-primary stuff, very easy for him. That same easiness is for the 8th standard guy who will study 7th standard. So the fellow who's in 8th standard, he said, I'll do 7th standard. I will always do well in doing 7th standard. Why should I go to 9th standard? Because going to 9th standard is where his problem will lie.
Well, that effort has to be given for longer time, like eighth to ninth, or time
No,
also.
yeah, for that individual, it's the same thing. What is he calling effort? When a person goes to the gym and lifts 1 kg, okay, he's putting a certain amount of effort and he struggles and he picks it up and he's very thrilled with life. Okay, for him, that was a struggle. Or 1 kg may be too little. Let's say he's picking up 3 kgs. And for that, him, it's a struggle. All right, now he's struggling. Another fellow is picking up 150 kgs. He's also struggling. From their own perspective, they're both struggling. We may say, no, the guy who's picking up 150 is actually struggling more. He's not. It's the same. From his own perspective. When you look from outside, then you can say it differently. But as far as he is concerned, that struggle is the same.
But the statement, the statement referred now, I was having doubt. Okay, I'll think about it. I'll think about it. I mean, I'm okay with the statement, but I'll still think of it. I have to put effort. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Come, Mahesh. Grosser pleasures are easy. Their joy content is derived instantaneously. Their appreciation need not be taught. They can be enjoyed instinctively. Hence, they are very attractive. They are basically what my mind likes. Whatever my mind likes is the lower pleasure for me. The okay. The overwhelmingly vast majorities are aware of only these. Overwhelmingly vast majority only know of these. They know what their mind likes and they want to get that thing and they want to be happy. That's it. Subtler joys have to be learned. For instance, pop music can be enjoyed by huge numbers. Stadiums are filled. But classical music does not attract those kinds of numbers. Because of the effort involved, higher aspects are generally disregarded. There is effort for everybody to move up higher than where they are. Just go back, Mahesh. There's a diagram here. It shows a seed that is underground. It is in the dark. It is comfortable in that dark. And it's very, very happy over there. It doesn't understand the pleasure that the flowers have. The sun, the butterflies, all looking pretty, everything. It doesn't. It doesn't know it. It knows its darkness. It's okay. Mahesh, don't keep moving it. It's distracting. It's 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 so comfortable, no, in that darkness, in the dirt, in the muck. It's a well of being here. It's very cozy and nice. It's exactly how we feel. You have to take effort for the seed to push its way up and come up. But once it comes up, will it ever want to go down again? Thus, the advantage of the grosser forms of joy is speed, availability, and quantity. What all do you get when you go to the grocer? You get it quickly, it's easily available, and the quantum is more. They are obtained quickly, are abundant, and easily available. The advantage of the subtler joys is its quality and duration. So, what is the difference? Its quality is better and it lasts longer. What happens to a grosser form of pleasure is it goes very fast. You want something, you got it, pleasure gone. But the advantage of the higher pleasures is it's a longer lasting pleasure. A one night stand can give pleasure, but a long term relationship is more fulfilling on many different levels. Junk food gives instant pleasure, but wholesome food gives health, a more long term happiness. The Bhagavad Gita says a sattvic, purer diet gives pleasure, meaning long lasting wellness. Everyone always gives up a lower pleasure for a higher one. Sounds contradictory, right? I'm sure Prashant is saying, Arey, now you're saying everyone gives up lower for the higher. Do you think this is a true statement? Everyone always gives up a lower pleasure for a higher pleasure. What do you think? Mahesh, you can remove this. Everyone always gives up a lower pleasure for a higher pleasure. Statement true or false?
False.
The book is wrong then. Then you have to
Uh,
explain.
I think it's true,
Mhm.
but if that person is exposed to or subjected to higher, for example, we were saying that if they get the proper education, they will move towards the higher.
Very good. See, you're right, Deepraj. Both of you are right. Yes, very good, Gunjan. Excellent interpretations. If one makes the statement that a person always gives up a lower pleasure for a higher one, it sounds silly because we don't do it. But think of it again. If I knew the higher and I was given a lower one, which one would I choose? I would always go for the higher. If I was a teenager, I have the choice between going out with my girlfriend or going out and playing with dinky toys. Which one will I choose? As an adult, I can go out with my girlfriend on the mobike, or I'm getting a job opportunity at, I don't know, which are the big companies nowadays? At IBM. No, IBM is gone. No, what is the biggest company nowadays? Microsoft. Chalo. Okay, I have the opportunity of going for a drive with my girlfriend or getting a job at Microsoft. What will I do? I'll say I'll go for a drive later. I'm taking this job now. So whenever, don't look like that, Deepraj, like you're not sure that you'll actually go for that job. But once you figure out that no, the job will do me better good, then you'll take it. So when you know the higher, you will always choose the higher to the lower. The reason you choose the lower is because you don't know the higher. Once you've experienced a higher pleasure, there's no way you're going to choose lower. It simply won't happen. Yes, Momita. I don't know, is it Momita or Taruna? Who had a question? Taruna, here, go ahead.
Ma'am, you said uh, my mind, whatever my mind likes is the lower pleasure always. Why is it so? Why is it lower always? Whatever my mind likes.
Because it's your desire. Otherwise, how can you get pleasure out of it? So let's say, no, I like to do service. And I get a lot of pleasure out of service. True service is when you are feeling some pain, right? When you're pushing yourself up. No. I like Vedanta. Is it lower? If you're only using Vedanta as as a pleasurable thing in your life, it's like a hobby course, of course it's the lower. Because there's no pain in your Vedanta, that means there is no Vedanta there. So if it is universally, or I'm listening to bhajans, and I love listening to bhajans. When I'm getting all involved in bhajans, I've forgotten that I got something to do. So your enjoyment is always of your desire. And since you already have the desire, it becomes the lower. Now you have to get higher desires, no?
In that context, we cannot enjoy anything.
You cannot enjoy.
Anything means whatever you like, if and it is lower. So means how to enjoy anything in that context.
Well, the same thing. You have to use your intellect and decide whether you want to contact it or not. That means you don't allow any of these pleasures to interrupt your progress to your goal. You want to get to the higher. So you will not partake of those pleasures that interrupt that process. Everything else is fine. Why should you not enjoy stuff?
Right. I will think more about it.
Deep Raj.
So, You said once we get knowledge of the higher, we'll automatically choose the higher, but there is a struggle. So if we automatically choose, then that implies there is no struggle. Then how fit
It's a
together?
yeah. Today I'm enjoying X. Okay. Then I have to struggle, and get to Y. This position, this movement is growth.
Hmm.
Once I'm here, once my intellect is established here, my mind will come.
Hmm.
Now my mind and intellect are the same point.
Hmm.
There's no struggle left.
Yeah, so the example of the teenager choosing to go with his girlfriend instead of playing with dinky toys means that he's already at that level. So for him, that going out with his girlfriend is not a higher desire. Both dinky toys and that are lower desires. One is lower than the other, so he picks the lower desire that gives him more happiness.
Your logic would have been right had you remembered that lower and higher are always
Relative.
relative. So compared to the dinky toys, that drive for him is a higher pleasure. Compared. So we're not talking about from his perspective. We're talking of the two desires.
Okay, 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 okay. That way, yeah, it's fine. Thank you.
Bharat?
Yeah, so we said that gross pleasures are those where the desire is there, right? So, how does this uh, categorization of speed, availability, quantity differ in the different desires that we have?
Same thing, no? The lower desire, always you have more of, and you'll get the happiness from it quicker. Now, in the book, it doesn't say that. In the book, it takes certain desires as higher and certain desires as lower, you know, in comparison to each other. In class, we can make it slightly subtler, slightly more personal. The book itself is saying that there is a higher, there's a lower, right? So if you have popular music, it's widely available. If you have classical music, it is not so widely available. Not widely available. Generally, it's not available. If you want to have vada pav on the road, it's widely available. But if you want to have some fine dining, it will simply not be that widely available. Okay, this is for when we are doing it from an external perspective. Is this clear?
Yes, yes.
Now, this same thing is internal perspective also. That means those things for which I already have any desires, but I already have desires for it, for me, they will be widely available. Means I've already surrounded myself with those things. I've already got it. Suppose I enjoy Shakespeare, my whole bookshelf will be full of Shakespeare already. If I enjoy classical music, my whatever, my iPod or whatever you use will be full of it already. Whatever I have a desire for, it will be easily available. Its joy will come to me quickly. All of it stays the same.
Joy will come quickly, but again, the joy content will be different, right? For an intellectual desire would be higher than the physical pleasure, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
But you decide which one you're doing. Are you doing internally or externally? So that you're clear in your head that when you're talking about it externally, that means you're just talking with the desires relative to each other, or you're talking desires relative to the individual. You have to know what it is relative to. Otherwise, it will be confusing later on when you think of
Yeah, internally, I was talking about.
it. Okay. So clear?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Yes, Joyce.
I didn't understand the sentence. Every growth, every step forward accords commensurate pleasure. Does it mean that the pleasure comes with the journey itself, the growth from gross to subtle? And then if this is the case, then what about the effort and the discomfort and that comes with growth? I'm not sure I understand this quite well.
Okay, let's start. Here an individual is. Okay, and then that individual starts putting an effort.
Mhm.
There is discomfort, there is pain, there is trouble. The person is struggling. The person means intellect is struggling, mind is suffering. Intellect struggles, mind is suffering. I don't want to do it's grumbling and crying. Okay, all this is effort. Then finally, the intellect establishes itself over there. The moment it's established there, the mind will come in. That is what establishment means. Means you now have created the desire. So mind has come here. Now at this level, the mind will enjoy. It's like being on cruise control. If you're driving a car on the autobahn or something, or on cruise control, you're going. Right? So this is the stage where you start enjoying the higher.
Mhm.
Okay, as you keep enjoying it and enjoying it and enjoying it, you will create desires on the lower, on this level. Now it's become lower for you. So then one day when you realize that, your intellect will start struggling to go to the next one. The mind is like, leave me alone, let me enjoy this. I don't want to do all this trouble. And
Yes.
then, finally the intellect settles and the mind comes. Then same story repeats all over again.
Until you reach the highest level.
And
So
then
it means that the pleasures that come are let's say relevant or adequate for each level that you reach, and then you have to grow more into and get another level of pleasure. All right. Thank you. Yes.
the problem in this is once you escalate to a higher level, you think, oh, this is fantastic. And you want to be there now. And at every level, you think, oh, this is fantastic. And you want to stay there.
Yeah. And it's the intellect that let's say gives you a warning that you're not there yet, and this is not it.
Yeah,
So
you're
you
not
need
there yet at the highest
yes.
yet.
Yes, exactly. All right. It makes sense. Thank you.
And of course, your intellect cannot give you the warning unless you have been educated. That's
Yes.
not the problem.
Yes. Yes, it's clear. Yes, thank you.
Kanchan Roy, you had something? You're muted. I can't hear you. You're still muted. You're muted.
Okay, now it is okay?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I was thinking that in this way, as we are surpassing one level and approaching another level, then we are reaching that level up to some extent, and then our intellect is going to the higher thought, a higher desire, and then our mind is matching that. Then we are in that level. Like that, if it goes on, then when the contentment will come, it will be continuous process of evolving, and evolving. But when do you think? Shall I say that it will be only stopped once we reach the highest level of contentment?
No, that would be a torturous life. So
Yeah.
every time you go up and your mind comes up here, you are very happy. So you will live over here for some time and you'll enjoy, and then create desire. So if you are aware of the truth, then the intellect will start struggling again. And again, mind has to come up. Now, when it comes up, again, it will start enjoying and having a party. So this is the process.
So it is going on as a process which goes on.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank
Yes, Bharat.
So once the mind is established in the higher, does it get neutralized to that pleasure so that, I mean, that pushes it perhaps to seek the higher?
Unfortunately, if that is true, then it'll be true throughout the journey, but that doesn't happen. It finds more alternatives at that level. So when you reach the higher, one of the disadvantages, I don't know if the book mentions it or not, one of the disadvantages of the higher is that neutralization takes longer to. I don't know if you're all familiar with neutralization. Neutralization means that when you contact an object repeatedly, indiscriminately, when you contact an object indiscriminately, the pleasure content of it keeps diminishing until it reaches zero. Like you have one mango, then you have second mango, then you have third mango, then it's zero. After zero, it will go to minus. So when you contact an object indiscriminately, the pleasure content keeps dropping. That's what neutralization means. Now, I think that's what Bharat is referring to. You simply don't get pleasure from that object anymore. Now, the disadvantage of higher pleasures is that getting bored with them takes a lot longer. Lower pleasures, you can get bored with it very quickly. That was the point of durability. That the pleasure lasts for longer when you have a higher pleasure. And that is a disadvantage because unless you're agitated, in many cases, until agitation starts, we won't do anything. So therefore, your agitations are not starting. You are not recognizing that you're on the wrong track. That's one of the disadvantages of growth, and it's such a what should I say, such a important or such a crucial disadvantage that the Isavasya Upanishad talks about it and repeats it 3 times. That means it spends 9 verses, 3 verses it repeats. It's a cycle of. And Upanishads, as you know, they are written by the masters of the past who did not believe in many explanations at all. They would say 2-3 words to their shishyas. The students hardly got any words out of a master. And here he's repeating, drawing our attention to the fact that you can get hopelessly lost away. Hopelessly lost. And what will tell you, because you're not going to feel uncomfortable, you're not feeling agitated, and yet hopelessly lost because you're at a higher level, but lost in it. Therefore, you have to always remember the end of the journey. Always. That's one of the most important things. I mean, many people say, I can't be inspired all the way up to realization. I need a shorter term goal. Please have your short term goal, but don't forget the end of the journey. Because if you do, you don't know when you will be lost. Remember the end of the journey. It should be actively available in your memory. We all have 2 types of memory, active and passive. Passive means it's there somewhere, it will come out whenever it feels like. And active means it's there in your mind, it's not just in your memory. So it should be actively in our memory that our goal is the highest. Reaching the ultimate truth has to be there. Then what's the use of it? What's the use of it is, if you have gotten the habit of remembering it, you may remember that, I don't seem to be putting enough effort here. Question. Mamita did not understand Bharat's question. Are you okay now?
Oh, ma'am, the earlier question to which you answered, I did not understand this question. So the answer.
Bharat, can you repeat your question?
Yeah, so we said that the gross pleasures are those where the mind already has a desire. So how does this categorization of speed, availability, and quantity differ? Or, I mean, what's the difference basically? In terms of having physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual desires, how does this fit in?
If you're saying something, you're muted, Tarun.
Okay, got the question. So, but I did not understood the answer as well because I didn't understand the question.
Okay, Bharat, please explain the answer.
Some examination for me.
What were
Yeah,
you
so
expecting?
the answer was that if we are looking at the internal perspective, the speed, availability, and quantity would be the same because you're surrounded basically by the object of desire. And externally, the availability would be different since if the crosser objects may be available quite easily, and I mean, so-called subtler objects or aspects would be not so easily available.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
True for all three, of course. The speed, availability, durability.
Right.
But of course, a slightly different meaning whether you're looking internally or externally. I'll just go through that again. Take a concrete example. You have a gross pleasure, a subtle pleasure. Now let's think of something. There's a physical pleasure and emotional pleasure. So if you're a physical pleasure is very easily available. Okay, you want to go out for dinner. It's easily available. You have some money, you have a restaurant, you go out for dinner. Now you want somebody to come with you for that dinner, and that person must have the emotional connect in that dinner with you. Right? So now that will become less because that person may come for the dinner, have the dinner, but may not have that emotional connect. Right? So it
Is it
becomes
the internal availability? This part is the internal availability.
no, now I'm doing external.
Okay.
We're comparing physical to emotional. So this is external. I mean, internal, external is just a usage. What it means is, are you comparing the pleasures? Is your reference point the pleasures to each other, or is your reference point to yourself?
Okay.
Right. So when it's to each other, so physical, emotional, they are with reference to each other. So let us say, for argument's sake, that your desire for emotional intimacy or emotional connection or whatever is fulfilled. Now, what is the duration of that pleasure? It was easy to get the dinner and more difficult to get the connection. The pleasure of the dinner was easily available, the pleasure of the connection was slightly more difficult. Now, durability. Which one will keep you satisfied for longer? Having the dinner,
emotional one.
the emotional one. So its durability is also longer. So, like that, each thing becomes different. Availability, durability, everything. So now the same thing is internal. Meaning with reference higher and lower when you're taking with reference to yourself. The same rules will start applying. Whatever is lower for you, it's very immediately available. But its pleasure content will be available for a shorter duration than if you were able to go to the higher. The same laws apply. Now, this is unnecessary complication because it was a class. We can just take it from pleasures with reference to one another. If I say exactly what is in the book, then sometimes you may think, then why have I to listen to this? I can read the book. So little complication, I can take the liberty of adding.
So whatever is available to me is lower to me, or means I'm at that level. And whatever
quickly available. I mean, not the object. The enjoyment is quickly available.
the enjoyment is quickly available. Be it physical, emotional, or intellectual.
That's correct.
Right.
So Vedanta is very easily available enjoyment to you. So therefore,
if I'm not striving towards my goal, then it is
then it will become lower. Correct.
lower.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, Prashant.
Ma'am, it might be repetitive, but I'm trying to understand. Ma'am, with education, intellect grows to a certain point. Then, with that effort, the intellect gets the mind to this level.
Correct.
But I'm having a doubt. I mean, if mind reaches at this point, mind means likes and dislikes are already at this point, not at the bottom, right?
Correct.
Because,
That's
but
right.
but we told that there'll be a lag. Like until these desires reach this point, you can enjoy. I mean, you'll be more pleasurable at this point. I mean, I was unable to understand that point.
So you got most of it. My likes and dislikes, my desires are here. I enjoy these things.
Yeah.
Then my intellect puts in effort, I come to grow here. The moment my intellect comes here, it's established in the higher, this becomes my likes and dislikes, desires. That's what it means. I've inculcated the higher desire.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. That's it. The struggle is to get the likes and dislikes to change.
Okay, the happiness level also will increase because okay.
Unless
So
I'm
subtler.
not answering your question. Am I not answering your question? You got that you
Yeah,
were
yeah.
enjoying desires at this level. Now with you study, you educate yourself. Now you come up to here. You understand this. The moment you understand the higher, your desires will become there. Take real life examples. It become easy. Uh, I want a Titan watch. Then I learned that there are watches called Patek Philippe. I learned this. Now I want that. So my likes and dislikes themselves have changed. Then I learned that actually, what is the use of my watches if I'm totally disorganized and non-punctual? I have 25 watches, but I never keep the time in any of them. So then I start training myself to become a more disciplined person. So that will become painful for me while I'm training myself. Then eventually one day I will have trained myself. Then that will become pleasurable. Then I will get obsessed with my discipline. Right? I'm creating desires at that level. Now I start getting obsessed with my. Now I have to have something higher.
There again, another education has to come.
That's
right. Thank you.
But in the case of Vedanta, another one doesn't have to come because in the beginning only they tell you everything. You know that I have a long journey to go.
Thank
you. Prakash's life. When the intellect is established at one level, mind automatically reaches intellectual level. I would like to know. Yes, that's what we just did. Is it clear or do we need more explanation? The moment you have raised yourself to a certain level, what does it mean? You have created the desire for that. That's what it means, right? I raised myself to that level. I have the desire for it. So the mind automatically gets the level which the intellect has. Now they're two at the same level. So this intellect is going to sleep because it has no role to play. It's sleeping happily. The individual is doing likes and dislikes, increasing desires at that level until the intellect is able to pitch on to something higher. And then again, this whole struggle starts, and the mind then enjoys something much better when it reaches. Is that okay? Okay, Mahesh, let's continue. Everyone always gives up a lower pleasure for a higher one. But there's a condition involved. If one has access to a higher pleasure, one's craving for the lower disappears. But if you've never experienced a higher pleasure, how will the craving for the lower go? It's like you're on a ladder. Once you've got one foot up on the ladder, then only your lower leg can be left, no? If your foot is not on the higher rung, how can you leave the lower rung? It can't be done. There is no doubt a pleasure in eating the chocolate. Then why does a mother give hers to her child? Because the emotional pleasure of seeing her child eat supersedes the sensual pleasure of the chocolate. And when you give something and you can enjoy the pleasure that the other person is having, you'll never eat that food. An Indian homemaker, after serving her guests, feels full and hardly eats. You may have noticed you call people to your house, you serve them, you take care of them. It's almost like you don't need to eat after that. She is satiated by the subtler pleasure of serving. A student going overseas for university courses gives up the conveniences and emotional pleasures of home and family and undertakes struggles all for education. Can you imagine a youngster in India, how pampered these kids are? Then they go over there, they have to stay. Here, they won't share their bedroom with their brother. There, they have to go and stay 3 or 4 in a room or something. Whatever struggles they have to go through, they put up with it because they want that particular education. People fired up with a higher ideal put themselves through any deprivation for their cause. So when you have a higher ideal in mind, you put up with all sorts of things because you have that to achieve. When one has experienced the higher, subtler joys, one is disinterested in lower ones. No one renounces the subtle for the gross. I hope you're getting all this, right? Nobody gives up a higher pleasure for a lower pleasure. And yet we see everybody doing that. What is the explanation?
If you have access to it.
Very good. As you will never give up a higher pleasure for a lower pleasure, assuming you have the higher pleasure. The people who are choosing the lower pleasure do not have the higher pleasure. Therefore, they're choosing the lower. When a teenager has to choose between toys and his teenage joys, he will always choose teenage ones. The child will always choose the dinkies, the dinky and the Barbie doll and all that. Why will the child choose this? Because he has no access to the higher. But the moment you have access to the higher, you will never choose the low. Okay. Mamita?
Janki ji, so is the access, by access we mean an intellectual understanding, exposure?
Intellectual understanding is when your struggle starts. Access means now you want it. That is access to pleasure.
But as soon as I want it, then I'm in the enjoying stage. Like, and the intellect has taken a back seat.
Backseat means hopefully you won't do that, but that's what normally happens. That you start enjoying something higher, then you are like thinking, this is so good, now that's it. But in Vedanta, you want constantly that it's not it.
Right. So by access, we mean that the mind has access to it. The mind appreciates its availability.
Means you have a desire now.
Okay.
But Janki ji, but for the higher always there is a struggle. Then how mind want it then?
it is a struggle only until you don't want it. The moment you start wanting it, see, for some people, it will be a big struggle to make it to class every Friday. But for you, it's not a struggle, it's become your normal life. So the moment you want it, it becomes the struggle portion goes away, the enjoyment starts.
No, but to want that also, you should have some knowledge about it. No?
When you have the knowledge but not the want, that's the struggle period.
Okay.
So you have the knowledge, let us say that, I don't know, I want to be service oriented. Suppose you have the knowledge that it's, being, if you're selfish and self-centered, you're very agitated. So now you say, okay, I should be service oriented. Then you start doing service. Then you get in, then it's too much trouble and it's too much pain. But you say, so some people come back and say, forget it, I don't want to work this service. But if you struggle and say, no, I know this is the right track, I have to keep doing it somehow. Then you reach a stage where that service is so much pleasure. So now when you reach that stage where service is a pleasure, you will jump up to do service because it's pleasure. You say with great happiness, if somebody tells you, I hear this helping me, and with great happiness you do it. Which first was like, oh God, now I have to do this.
Okay. Thank you.
When one has experienced the higher, subtler joys, one is disinterested in the lower ones. One renounces the subtle for the gross. No one renounces the subtle for the gross, which means one cannot go backwards. If one has learned to enjoy classical literature, mills and boons would not interest one. As we develop a taste for finer things, the pleasures derived thereof are far superior. This is easily established by the fact that no one who has access to both lower and higher pleasures will choose the former. For example, no teenager would play with his erstwhile toys instead of going out on a date. No adult reverts to his teenage interests. Imagine a child who had longed for a dinky car and did not get it. As an adult, he could buy himself hundreds. But would he? Would a plant want to go back underground where it was once so comfortable? Any growth in subtlety is accompanied by commensurate growth in happiness. As this is not comprehended, people restrict their evolution to higher dimensions. They succumb to the fear of the unknown. Knowledge circumvents that. An understanding of life is crucial for human development. So that seems so obvious, no? I'm happy here now. Why are you making me uncomfortable? You're telling me you should be happy, you should be happy. Arey Baba, but I am happy. So, you will tell your friends, come to Vedanta class, you will become very happy. What will they tell you? Say, I am happy, you must be unhappy, therefore you're going. I am happy. It doesn't make sense to them. So you want me to become unhappy to become happy, but I am happy already. But now that is the way it is in life. What can anyone do? You have to consciously take up discomfort so that discomfort is not thrown upon you. Discomfort you have to have. Now your only question in front of you is, will you choose when you're going to be uncomfortable? Or will discomfort be thrown upon you whenever it wants? That's the choice you have. You can decide whichever one you want. Okay, so that's it for today. Hari Om.
Hariom Nandis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hari Ram Janki ji.
Janki ji, thank you.